Amazing, amazing proof for hubal and Allah. Let's see it.
This means that the Allah of Islam is not the true God, but a false satanic counterfeit. In support of this is the fact that Baal, going by the name of Hubal, at the time, was the high god of the Quraysh tribe, not the true creator god of the Christians and the Jews.
Again, Christians and the Jews. Baal being hubal. Not the same as the Christians. We already shown that the Jews and the Christians don't worship the same God. Please go down the street to the synagogue and ask them. Now, watch his proofs. Amazing.
Rodinson states, quote, the great
Rodinson. Ooh, the great god of Mecca was Hubal, an idol of Carnelian. The idol of Carnelian. Maxim Rodinson's Muhammad, New York Press. Now proof. Okay,
god
let's
of
keep
Mecca
going.
was Hubal, an idol of Carnelian, unquote. Similarly, Ruthven states, quote, the presiding deity was Hubal, a large
This is Ruthven. Oh, very nice. Okay, no problem.
kept inside the temple. 360 other idols were arranged outside, unquote. Broswell states, quote, pre-Islamic Arabia also had its stone deities. They were stone statues of shapeless volcanic or meteoric stones found in the deserts and believed to have been sent by astral deities. The most prominent deities were Hubal, the male god of the Kaaba, and the three sister goddesses Alat, Al-Manat, and Al-Uzza. Muhammad's tribe, the Quraysh, thought these three goddesses to be the daughters of Allah. Hubal was the chief god of the Kaaba among 360 other deities. He was a man-like statue whose body was made of red precious stone.
Okay, so again, we really also need, as I said, we need to find that proof where even from these people, even that Hubal and Allah are the same. That even the Quraysh, that they thought that actual Allah is actual Hubal, because we have not seen that yet. Never. I'm asking for that. Okay, I'm not trying to make. I just want to know. Can you show us that? Can you? I would like to know so I can address that.
And whose arms were of solid gold, unquote. Glay states, quote, Hubal, an idol, god of the moon. It was set up in the Kaaba and became the principal idol of the pagan Meccans, unquote.
Okay.
Now this is where it gets interesting.
It's very
There's evidence Muhammad adopted Hubal, also known as Allah, by the pagans, a satanic false god.
Now we need to see that evidence. Yeah? You said there's evidence. Okay, let's see the evidence.
And changed him into the Allah of Islam. Former Muslim turned atheist Ibn Waraq remarks, quote, the Prophet rallied against...
Wow, that is amazing atheist. That's like saying like former Christian Jibril K says that Jesus is, an idol. Just quote unquote whatever. And that's it. Statement, with no proof, nothing. But I'm just making a statement, and then you will take a Muslim will take my statement. Hey, it must be true. This can be used as a proof. Why? Because former Christian Jibril K is saying that. He is saying that. And you can replace this as why I'm not a Muslim to why I'm not a Christian, and then quote it, and then publish it, and then use that as a proof. Wow, amazing proof, Keith and Sam. Amazing. That's amazing scholarship. Yes, we really, just
the homage
great.
Rendered at the Kaaba to the goddesses Alat, Manat, and Al-Uzza. Instead worship Baal, who went by the name of Hubal, as well as Allah. Note the following syllogism provided by Shimon. 1. Hubal was the chief deity of the Quraysh. 2. Allah was the chief deity of the Quraysh. So therefore it follows, Hubal was Allah in pre-Islamic times.
Okay, so now this is what I've asked before, and I just want. Can you make that link between Hubal and Allah? Because now you're just trying to use a certain logic, but there is no link. You cannot show even that the Quraysh thought that Allah and Hubal are exactly the same thing, exactly the same. No, you cannot even show that. Please show us if you can, and then we will consider it. Now look at this, amazing. Hubal was the chief deity of the Quraysh. Okay, so, and then Allah was the chief deity of the Quraysh. Therefore, Hubal was Allah in pre-Islamic times. Let's go with this argument of Sam Shamoun, the master of debates and arguments, the master of logic. Let's go with this and be like, okay, Sam, what did you prove? except that, just going for the argument, I'm not saying I agree with it, just going for it, except that hubal was Allah in pre-Islamic times. That's what the Quraysh believe, but that's not what Prophet Muhammad believed, man. Amazing. The best logician that I've seen in my whole life.
Now, to further demonstrate that the pre-Islamic pagan Allah was Hubal, or the satanic Baal, we know that Muhammad's grandfather prayed to Allah by facing Hubal's statue. Ibn Kathir remarks, quote, Ibn Ishaq stated, it is claimed that when Abd al-Muttalib received such opposition from Quraysh over the digging of Zamzam, he vowed that if 10 sons were born to him, who grew up and protected him, he would sacrifice one of them for 10 sons were born to him, who grew up and protected him. He would sacrifice one of them for God at the Kaaba.
The word for God there is Allah, not hubal. Now, of course, Keith has been trying to put that there. Hey, you can just change him. It's not a big deal. But look at the same narration that he's using here is showing that they're two different things. All right. So Abdul Muttalib, good. However, eventually he had 10 sons, okay? He asked them to honor to pledge to God, to Allah Almighty and all glorious He is, okay? Then obeyed and asked him whatever he wanted to. He asked them to take an arrow, write his name on it, and return to him, okay? Sacrifice is to who? To Allah. Now watch.
Whom he knew would give him protection. Their names were...
Watch. I'm going to just go to the text, okay? And go a bit. Just kind of go a bit. All right, okay. Now, watch the text. Now, so they left Medina, and basically what they did is, let's go back for a second. 1 second, please. Okay, right. So they did so, and they went to the Kaaba, to the site, so they put their names on there, okay, to their God Hubal. Now notice, they're not talking about God the Almighty, the glorified being. He's talking about the God Hubal, the idol Hubal. There near Hubal were 7 arrows, okay, they used for judgment over some matter of consequence, a question of blood, money, kinship, or the like. They would come to Hubal to seek a resolution, accepting whatever they would order and do or to refrain from. So look at that, the two are different. They're going for Hubal, for the arrows, and so on. But the sacrifice is to who? To Allah. Someone different. Someone different. Is it the same God? Watch the next. So they left for Medina. Leave me today until my attend the spirits. They're talking to a witch pretty much. Okay? It says, and then she wants to ask him about, whether, because he had to sacrifice. He had to sacrifice one of his sons. To who? To Allah. They left her, and Abdul Muttalib prayed to Allah, to God. He didn't say he prayed to Hubal. Why? Why are the two not used here interchangeable? Because they're not the same. It seems that even the Quraysh did not believe that they're the same. 10 camels. Okay. All right. Let's look. He said prayers to God again. Okay. Now, who was standing near Hubal praying to God? At that point, the men of Quraysh told Abdul Muttalib, who was standing near Hubal, praying to God. Now, the fact that he was standing near Hubal, praying to God, does it mean that he was praying to Hubal? Because Keith is making that assertion, but the text is actually proving otherwise. The arrows were laid near Hubal. They were going to seek his assistance in a matter of sacrificing towards God. But no, the prayers were towards this one God. Abdul Muttalib seems that he's praying to Allah and not Hubal. And I'm not saying he never prayed to Hubal. What I'm saying is that it seems that he did not hold Allah or God to be the same as Hubal. Now, the issue was that the camels were basically was adding the blood money to the camels, and it says it's all over. Your God is pleased with Abdul Muttalib, and it's not saying that Hubal is pleased. He's saying that your God, Allah, the one that you're praying to, standing near Hubal. Now, let's see here. So, for example, and I'm just using this, for example, the Copts, the Arab Copts from the Arabic Broadcasting Network, when they're staying next to the statue, saying this and saying that, and I'm not saying they don't pray to that saint, but if they're staying next to him and they're saying, oh God, they're praying to God, or oh Jesus, does that mean that they're praying to the statue of Saint so-and-so? No, it doesn't. Even though they might be praying to them, but the two are not the same. And just because they're staying there, they're staying near the idol, doesn't mean that they're actually saying that the idol is the same as Allah. Right? Remember what the Quraysh would believe, that these idols would bring them closer to Allah. That's why they would use them in their prayers and so on and so forth. So let's see what Keith has to say now. It's very interesting. Again.
It's that if you read the Quran, there is no bearing whatsoever specified. If it points to 10 camels, the foregoing makes it quite clear that Allah, to whom Muhammad's grandfather vowed and worshipped, was none other than Hubal. There is simply no escaping.
Keith and Sam, there's simply no escaping that you guys are so wrong that you don't even know where to pick yourself up from. Please, people, go and review the text, the whole video, and show us, Keith and Sam, where can you draw a parallel before the two? Okay? Where can you draw a parallel before the two? And now remember, I made some arguments for the sake of argument, agreeing with you, and some arguments outside of that. So don't mix the two. Okay? There's simply no escaping this, Sam and Keith. Okay? So, a few things here. I talked about the Allah of the Muslims, the Prophet Muhammad coming, okay, what he preached about Allah, clearing the misconceptions that the Quraysh had about Allah, what they're associating to Allah, which are not the same, okay, the idols that they're associating, and what they thought about Allah, and other garbage that people had, Christians, Jews, and so on and so forth, clearing all that, okay, and Allah is the pure and only creator of the heavens and the earth. Now, there's no whatever in Islamic theology or in what the Prophet Muhammad and we ask for proof and we challenge for proof that Muhammad believed that Allah is the same of Allah, the Quraysh, and that the hubal, and therefore it's hubal. No proof whatsoever. What he claimed and he tried to prove is that the Allah that he is calling to is what the Quraysh should be worshipping. And is the one that they have perverted, that theology is perverted, and he is calling them to worship that high and one and only. Now, there's simply no escaping this, Keith and Sam. I know it's a lot of talking here that I'm doing, but you have to understand why, because you're quoting a lot, and I have to actually break everything down, everything, single thing.
This, unquote. Jibril K. asserts that if you read the Quran, there is no bearing whatsoever on the Allah that Muslims worship and the pre-Islamic pagan Allah. He says whatever these people used to make Allah to be, that's their problem. Wrong. The Quran itself affirms that the problem of the pagans wasn't that they weren't worshipping Muhammad's God, but that they associated other deities with Allah. This assumes that they did have the right Allah. This means that according to Muhammad...
This does not assume anything, Keith. You are assuming. You and Sam are assuming. And this is the amazing methodology of the missionaries. They're injecting their own understanding. They're twisting verses and twisting scriptures to try to just prove their own argument and then claim victory even before someone has the time to respond to them. This assumes nothing. This asserts nothing. Nothing happened except it showed that you're ignorant in using the text.
The problem was that they worship other gods on the side.
Where is... And again, I think it's the fifth time you have to prove to us, Prophet Muhammad said their belief in hubal is okay. When I've just shown you, and I will show you again, this is the hadith. Okay? When they're saying, oh hubal, be high. And the Prophet said to the companion, even before, he did not open his mouth. But now, when this guy calls upon hubal, what does he say? Respond to him. Why don't you answer him? Like, what should I say? Say Allah is higher and more sublime. This hadith Bukhari, Volume 4, Book 52, number 276, narrated by Al-Bara bin Azib. Please go check it out. My brothers and sisters, it is quite clear as what Sam Shamoun and Keith Drew are trying to do. Let's keep finishing here.
Verse 6, Ayah 136 states, they assign unto Allah of the...
Basically, he's trying to prove, and one of the arguments, right, that the missionaries have been making, and throughout history, is something that's called the al-argumentum e silentio. Basically, they're saying, well, you know, the Quran is talking a lot about like idols, and as Keith is saying, but he's not saying anything about hubal. Why is he not saying anything about hubal? The Quran is talking about, you know, this idol, it's talking about Lat, those. That argument has nothing to bear whatsoever. There's no proof. You make an argument out of silence because the Quran is silent. The Quran is not, for example, rebutting Paul. Does that mean it agrees with Paul? The Quran is not rebutting a lot of things. Does that mean it agrees with him? No, because if you take and you look at the whole Quran, you will definitely find that the Quran rejects the theology. Now, just because it does not address those people by name, such as Paul or Hubal or anyone else at that time.